Good evening, everyone. How are you today? You're doing well? Yeah, I'm having some fun. We're going to have a little bit more fun tonight. Can you hear me over there? I can't hear you yet. How about over here? Perfect. Well, I am so excited to be here tonight, so thank you to ILTM Asia for inviting me. What I want to do is have a little bit of fun, and I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you on 3 areas. I want to challenge you on what's happening to the Chinese consumer, how they're starting to evolve. Are they still interested in going out and buying Louis Vuitton items? Or are they getting more and more interested into experiences, as Craig just mentioned? The second thing I want to take a look at is how the economy in China is changing. What are the underlying changes that's going to affect all of us in Asia? Whether you're in Japan, South Korea, or Indonesia, China's trying to become Asia's regional superpower economically. So I'm going to look at some of these trends. And finally, I want to look at what's happening in innovation in the country. Is there innovation in China? And what does that mean for all of us, especially on the mobile side? I hope this is going to be a very interactive session. I'm going to ask you questions. Feel free to ask me as we move along. Okay, so this information is coming what I call the End of Copycat China. So I want to start by asking you a question. And I like to go to Joe Biden, the current Vice President of the United States. He's looking at innovation in the country. But I challenge you. Name me one innovative product, one innovative change, one innovative project that has come out of China. Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, do not think Chinese are innovative. Carly Fioroni, the former CEO of HP, who's now running to be a Republican candidate for president, has said the same thing. He said the Chinese just steal everything. They just copycat. What do you think? Do you think Chinese are innovative or not? Say, what? Somebody just said no. I heard it. Don't be embarrassed. What was it? Now their head's down. It's okay. Okay. Anybody else? Are Chinese companies innovative? Yes, okay. Tell me more. Define WeChat. Okay, WeChat is a mobile system. Okay? It's on your phone. Oops, I left it over here. It's mobile. A lot of people in the West say that WeChat is like Facebook. You can communicate with other people. That's kind of like comparing a Ferrari to Ford. WeChat is far more powerful. You can go out, you can even buy wealth management products. And I'll get into WeChat in a few minutes. But the new luxury in China is not buying a Gucci bag. I'm sorry, is Gucci in the room? I don't even know, I'm sorry. But it's taking a picture, going swimming with the dolphins, going on an African safari, and sharing it on moments on your WeChat with friends. And this is going to be very important for you, because I'll give a great example. I was at Hermes the other day, and I was trying to buy a gift for my wife. And so I tried to take a picture of the bracelet, because I wanted to get her approval first. And I took it to send to her on WeChat to see the color, and the Hermes store clerk started yelling at me. You can't take pictures. Now think about that. How stupid is that? It's not like I'm going to go copy the bracelet and start selling it in a factory. So things are changing, and you all have to think about WeChat and moments as an important part of the travel experience. But so let me ask you this. If you think Chinese companies are not innovative, please raise your hand. Not innovative. No one? So if you think Chinese companies are innovative, please raise your hand. Okay, they're about 20%. So the other 80% of the room has absolutely no idea what's going on with innovation in China. That's great, thank you, because now I actually have a job to do. So now I'm going to talk to you about innovation. Let's look at Joe Biden. In many ways, Joe Biden has been correct. China has not been innovative in recent years. Whenever I ask people, name me an innovative product, this is what they say. China invented gunpowder. China invented the compass. and banknotes. So yes, China is an innovative nation. But then I always look at them and I say, but this was invented 1,000 years ago. What has China done in the last 30 years? Why hasn't it been innovative? And if it hasn't been, why is it starting to change? And if it's starting to change, what does that mean for all of us in the travel industry? Well, let me take a look at some of the challenges of innovation in the last 30 years. And to give a little context, for those of you who don't know about China's economic history, between 1966 and 1976, during the Cultural Revolution, that's the period we call it, everything here was chaos. Universities were shut. You couldn't do business. My mother-in-law was put in solitary confinement for 3 years, and all of her brothers and sisters were too, because of the chaos going on in the country. So over the last 30 years, the Chinese government has been very smart. They said, we just need to get jobs for people. We just need to attract foreign direct investment. Let's build the country by making pants, making shoes, making clothes, making the cheap, made-in-China products. And it's worked. But we've reached a point in the country where that's no longer sustainable. Pollution's too bad. There are about 350 million middle-class Chinese who make between 10 and 30,000 US dollars a year. Low-income Chinese don't want to work in factories anymore. There's a major labor shortage. Most factories in southern China are vacant for jobs, 20, 30%. So China's reached an important part. Prime Minister Li Keqiang says we need to become a consumption-oriented economy. Instead of relying on heavy investment, infrastructure spending, buildings, we need to focus on innovation, and we need to focus on services and consumption. And it's starting to happen. Last year, over 50% of GDP growth in China came from consumption. But to go forward over the next 5, 10 years, we need to look at innovation. So here are the challenges to innovation. Charles Dickens, an author, in 1842, he says, I spoke, as you know, of international copyright. My blood so boiled as I thought of the monstrous injustice. He's angry about pirated books. It happens to me too. I write books, and there was actually pirated copies of my book out before the actual release date of my book. And actually, it was all in English language. So it's the Americans who are always copywriting problems because Charles Dickens wasn't talking about the Chinese. He was talking about the Americans in the 19th century. And when you look at it, the Americans copycatted, stole technology, transferred technology for 20, 30 years in order to become a powerhouse in the 20th century. This is very similar to the economic stages of development in Japan in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and Korea in the 80s, 90s, and the last decade. China's starting to come to that situation. Remember, you're starting at a low base after the Cultural Revolution. We now need to move higher. It's time for a change. So IP protection is a huge problem. I'll give a great example. Have you guys heard of Subway, the sandwich chain? Okay, I like Subway. I like to eat it. That's probably why my stomach's a little big. I like their cookies. But Subway has thousands and thousands of outlets in China. And so the head of business development for Subway applied for a job at my firm. And I was really excited. I was like, okay, this guy built several thousand outlets. He can really help build our company up. So when he interviewed him, he said, well, actually, there aren't thousands of outlets. There's only about 10 in the whole country. Everything else was counterfeit Subway sandwiches. It's unbelievable, right? So people all over the place had put up these fake Subways. And I used to eat them all the time. And so we looked at the guy and we said, well, wait a minute. Why didn't you take them to court? And they did. And he said, we took them to court and we won every single year. So the government in Shanghai had their problem was not in the judgment. Their problem was in the enforcement. So they would always say to the sandwich shop, the pirated Subway, you have to close or you have to change. So what did the Subway do? Well, it's S-U-B-W-A. Why? Year 1, they took away the U on the sign. Year 2, they took away the A. Year 3, they took away the Y. and so on and so on. So it took a decade before that subway closed. And it actually closed not because of the government, but because of me. I got really angry. I'm eating like fake meat and stuff. So I went out in front of the subway and I said, hey, everybody, come here. This is not a real subway. And the consumers got really angry because the consumers they want real objects now. They want safe food. They also want real luxury items. The days where people want to buy copycat items, counterfeit in China, are really dwindling. It was a function of poverty to buy fake Burberry or fake Louis Vuitton. Now, most Chinese would be embarrassed to have a fake Louis Vuitton bag. When you go out and you interview those guys out, they stand out in front of the Ritz, okay? And they're always selling Rolex, Rolex, right? You ask them, who buys the most? Do you think it's Chinese? No, it's the foreigners. They're always running after the Americans. And there's the Americans. Let's go sell them a fake Rolex. So the first problem towards innovation in China has been IP protection. But it's starting to get better. China's government set up an intellectual property court last year, just focused on IP issues, and they're really starting to enforce. The second problem is censorship. Now, does anybody know who this is? Peggy, okay? Do you know, what show is she on? Big Bang, okay, you guys watch a lot of TV. Okay, Big Bang Theory. Okay, it's about a couple geeky misfit professors at Caltech and their beautiful but stupid next door neighbor, Penny. Okay, great show. It's funny. It's not political. 240 million downloads of Big Bang Theory on Sohu.com, which is an internet portal. And I emphasize .com because I want you to think of mobile and I want you to think of the internet in China. Nobody here really watches traditional state media unless they're over age 60. Everybody's accessing the internet from their mobile phone. Big Bang Theory. What happened to it? Sohu paid millions of dollars for it to be seen. 240 million people downloaded it. What happened? It got banned in China. Wow, banned. But how about this? Game of Thrones, you guys just yell it out. That's great. Game of Thrones, okay? Game of Thrones, for those of you who don't know, it's all about sex and violence and hookers everywhere. You know where this is shown? On CCTV1, China's state-owned main TV station. But they banned Penny. Why? The rumor has it is that CCTV, that shows Game of Thrones, also wants to show Big Bang Theory. So one of the major barriers to innovation in China over the last 10, 15 years was that people were scared of the government. They were scared of state-owned enterprises. Why would you invest a lot of money, 5 years, 10 years in R&D, if a state-owned enterprise can come in and say, I want it? So that's been one of the major barriers towards innovation in the country. So I've put out a pretty bad situation, haven't I? Okay? People steal, they sell fake meat, the government comes in, steals your business idea. Joe Biden is right, maybe for the first time, but he's actually wrong. Why is China changing, and how is it different from the rest of Asia? So now what I want to do is look at some of the consumer trends and the economic trends in the country that are propelling innovation. And these are trends that are very relevant for you in your day-to-day business. The first is the China dream. This is hugely important. The current president, Xi Jinping, when he came into power, he had a national discussion. What does it mean to be Chinese? This is changing how Chinese people think. They're starting to become proud of being Chinese. They're starting to say, we want Chinese-made products for Chinese, by Chinese. And we want to create the new Chinese dream. It's not just wanting what the Americans aspire to. It's not just wanting what the Western Europe wants. Chinese are starting to define themselves and think critically. What is it that we want in a lifestyle? What is it that we want our kids to be like? How do we spend our money? The Chinese dream is important. Now, many of you don't work for Chinese companies, and that's okay. Let me give some examples. Here's Ralph Lauren. It's a great advertisement, isn't it? That girl, blonde-haired, big-breasted, the guy is cute. Americans love this stuff. Chinese, we showed people, and the girls say, yeah, that's great image, beautiful. But I don't have blonde hair. Chinese are shorter. The clothes might look good, but they look good on white people, not on us. So the problem with Ralph Lauren is they're not creating a dream that the Chinese consumer can aspire to. You can be a Western foreign brand, but you have to communicate and relate to the consumer in a way that they understand. Just saying we are a global Western brand and sticking a blonde-haired woman on doesn't work anymore. There's too much pride in China now. Here's another example from Gap. They tried to go a little bit more local. So they put a Chinese woman, a very famous person, and this black guy. Do you know who this black guy is? Who? Pharrell, great! Pharrell is awesome. He's the singer behind Happy, you know that good song? He dances around, he's on The Voice. He's one of my favorites. Problem is when Gap ran this campaign ad, this was before Pharrell was really famous. When you show this picture to people in China, they have no idea who Pharrell is. They don't recognize Pharrell. What do they see? You can't see it so well in this, but they see green hair. Okay? And I don't mean to be politically incorrect, so please excuse me. But they see green hair. What else do they see? Tattoos. Chinese say, this is a black gangbanger who's attacking this famous Chinese actress. So when we interview the Chinese woman, they say to us, I don't want to buy Gap clothes if the black gangbangers from LA are going to come over and attack me. And the guys who have inferiority complexes, they say, that guy's too muscle-bound and big. I can't compete. You have to be relevant in your image. Now, Gap did a great job over here with Gap Kids because they used redheads and blondes, Asians, and a black kid. When we interview Chinese, they say, well, black kids and white kids and Asian kids all have the same body types. So Gap Kids is doing extremely well. The key point of this is you have to localize your message and create a connection with the consumer that they want, not just what worked in America or in Europe 10 years ago. The next thing is individualism. This is big in the tourist industry. Before, everybody just wanted to get up and go on these tour groups. Part of it were visa issues, but the older Chinese have been scared. They just want to go on a group and go to Italy and France and Germany and all these different places all at once. What we're finding is younger Chinese want to be individualistic. They want to go on their own. I'll give a great example. I interviewed a girl who sells actually pirated DVDs, kind of ironic since we're saying the end of Copycat China. But she sells pirated DVDs. She makes about $500 a month. For 3 months of the year, she travels around the world. She makes enough money, then she goes off on buses, she takes a flight wherever she can get the cheapest, and she has pictures of her in Egypt, in Myanmar, in Europe, all over the place of these travels. And what she does, and this is important for those of you in the hotel industry, is the first night and the last night of every trip, she stays in a luxury hotel. She told me she stayed at the Shangri-La in Myanmar because she wanted to experience true luxury. The rest of the time, she stayed in cheap hostels. And this is a very complicated thing for a lot of hoteliers because you're selling a $500,000 a night experience to people who might not really be able to afford it. So what does that mean? That might mean you have to create packages that include food in hotels. It sounds like something very simple, but if you go to a lot of hotels, and I do this, okay, I'm a researcher, I go to hotel garbages, and I look around, and there's always instant noodles thrown away in the garbages. Okay? It became a national scene of embarrassment. President Xi Jinping said, tourists to Maldives, Chinese tourists to Maldives, stop eating instant noodles. Have some class. Okay, now I like President Xi, but I disagree with him. People are not doing it because they don't have class and don't want to try. They're eating instant noodles because they can't afford to eat in the restaurants. So they want to try that luxury like that girl selling pirated DVDs, but they want to have a taste of luxury. So what you all need to think about doing is maybe packages that have food included. Because what people will do, then this is what this girl does. Remember, she works for 9 months, and she plans every single day for what she's going to do in those 3 months afterwards. Price is not the problem. It's price out of their budget. Expectations from they plan, that's the issue. But individualism is really key. The next one is urbanization. And I'll go briefly on this, but if you look at it, when I first moved to China in the mid-90s, about 30% of the country was urbanized. That number crossed 50% last year, and Prime Minister Li Keqiang has set a 60% rate. What this means in everyday real life is you've got 200-300 million Chinese who were pig farmers, basically, moving from the countryside into urban areas. And they want modern conveniences. They want air conditioning. They want good transportation. This is a great time for brands to be able to create a resonance with these people. The corruption crackdown. And this is big, okay? A lot of people say that the current corruption crackdown isn't real or it's fake. This is really serious. Okay? If you look, the luxury guys are down 20-30%. Chanel closed about half of their stores in China last year. Most companies are closing 20-30% of their overall outlets. This corruption crackdown is very real, and it's forcing more innovation in the country. Why? A great example, I have a friend. He opened up a restaurant in Beijing. He got free land for 20 years at Workers' Stadium. 20 years. That's like getting free land for 20 years on Fifth Avenue in New York, or on the Champs-Élysées. He built a 750-person waiter restaurant. He had 750 waiters. He made $10 million a year from one restaurant. He had to shut it last year because all of his clients were government officials going there and banqueting and spending $3,000 to $5,000 a night. This corruption crackdown is ending a lot of the nepotism in the country. So what's happening is companies are starting to innovate. They realize that they can't exist just being able to call someone. Pollution. If there's one word that I want you to remember from this speech, it's the word pollution. Pollution is affecting how Chinese think. It's affecting how they're reprioritizing what they spend money on, where they want to spend money, how they want to spend money. And it's really pushing innovation. A great example would be e-commerce. Okay? E-commerce here is bigger than e-commerce in the United States, and we're expecting it to grow 35-40% a year for the next 5 years. Do you know one of the major reasons why e-commerce works well here? It's pollution. We've tracked the numbers. When days are more polluted, people buy more online. They don't want to go outside. Okay? I'll give examples. In the run-up to Christmas a year and a half ago, my son's outdoor recess, 18 of 25 days were canceled because of pollution. 18 of 25 days. Last summer, when France, on the AQI index, the pollution index, hit 150, they shut the whole city down. 150. In Shanghai, when I wake up and I look and it says 150, we get excited. It means we can actually go outside. So pollution is affecting things. And very importantly for you, it means people want to get out of the country. They want to travel to clean air. And that's one of the reasons why you see Chinese have suddenly gone from 0 to number 3 on the most number of visitors to Antarctica. They're traveling farther and farther away, which I'll get into in a second. So these were Chinese tourists 5 years ago. 5-day trip, Paris. What did they do? Day 1, Champs-Élysées. Day 2, Champs-Élysées. Day 3, Galeries Lafayette. Day 4, some other store. Day 5, back to Champs-Élysées. That's what they wanted. It was all about showing status. Now, they're going to Egypt. They want to try something different and exotic. They're going hiking. Now, 2 parts on this. I'll give a great example. Okay, my wife's from Beijing, so I took all my in-laws. We went to a safari in South Africa last year. You guys are in the tourist industry, so I don't pronounce it well, but I went to Singida. okay, which is a very high-end safari. It's about 5,000 US a room. And so we took a private jet there to get there, the whole family. There were about 15, 20 people on the jet. And I was expecting to go into the middle of nowhere. I'm like, this is an expensive trip. We're going off in the bush. We're going to see lions. We're going to see, well, not tigers, but we're going to see lions, and we're going to see giraffes and all kinds of things. And we're going to be away from China. Everybody on that plane, aside from the pilots, were from China. There's one person who lived 100 meters down the road from me, another one who lived 2 minutes away. It was all Chinese. It got to the point when we traveled around South Africa, there were more Chinese than black people when we went around. They're everywhere. You go to Cape Point, they're overrunning everything because it's about doing something different and then sharing it on moments on their WeChat. Again, the new luxury is not buying a Louis Vuitton bag. The new luxury is going to Egypt and telling everyone you went to Egypt. It's such a problem that people who don't have money get embarrassed. So you know what they've been doing in China? And I kid you not. These people, they get so embarrassed. This guy goes to Canada, this one goes to America, that these people who don't have the money or don't have the time fake it. So they have all these instances where families go into a photo studio. The photo studio puts a fake background of Egypt, and then they show it on Moments to say, I went there. Travel, something different. Now here's some other differences between Chinese and Westerners. And you have to think, do you want Chinese customers or not? Americans, Europeans, they like to go to the same place. They'll go to the same hotel in Thailand for 2 weeks every single year for 20 years. 30 years. That's what I used to do. Okay, I used to summer in the same place. It was a big family affair. You build those memories that way. Chinese never like to go to the same place. They want to go to different countries. They don't even go to the same hotel for 2 weeks. They want to go for one night, and then go to another hotel for one night, and then another one for one night. It's more pictures. Make nice picture environments, okay, at your hotels. I went to a Hard Rock. I gave a speech for Hard Rock a few months ago in Mexico, and outside, like 2 miles away from the hotel, was a Hard Rock guitar, and all the Chinese were there taking pictures. They want pictures. And they want to do things different. So when you put together your packages, it's about doing something different. They're not necessarily as brand loyal to certain hotel chains or to a specific property, but they do want great experiences, and they will be loyal to that travel provider who's able to give them what they want and understand year after year what it's going for. Now, as a Western company, how might you relate to this? So we saw Gap, and we saw Ralph Lauren. That doesn't work, but North Face is amazing. North Face is the outdoor winter apparel company. You wear North Face clothes to go hiking on a glacier. But if you look at this, basically these words are saying, take the North Face clothes wherever you go in the world. So you see the mountains in the back, you see urban areas, you see a rhinoceros. North Face gets it. They understand that Chinese consumers are being adventurous. They want something different. So wherever you go in the world, you take a North Face item with you, whether it's to safari or whether it's hiking in glaciers. This is what you all have to think about. How do you create that right environment? Creativity is becoming really big here. Now this is a famous TV judge and designer, Ye Mingzi. Okay? She is taking a look at ancient Forbidden City and other old Chinese motifs and creating a new line of jewelry. And she's now doing a piece, Swarovski, you know, the crystal company. They've hired her to design a line just for China. You see, Tumi, the luggage company, has also hired local designers to create things for China only. People are looking, again, to work within that China dream. They want something for Chinese, by Chinese. Full disclosure, yeah, Mingzi is my wife's first cousin, so I had to give her a little bit of free advertising here. Okay, so when I started off, I said I want to challenge you on what's happening in the country. What are some of the barriers to innovation in the country? And I've gone over them. The first was low-hanging fruit. China started from a low base. It didn't make sense to try to be innovative. But what we've seen is we're now reaching the stage of business model innovation. Chinese want Chinese products made for Chinese. Now, WeChat, which is fabulous, is not a product that was technologically invented by Tencent. They just adapted current technology for the Chinese system. Now, this is important. Let's just define the difference for a second between invention and innovation. Okay, innovation is not invention. It's about creating products and services to fit unmet demands. A great example would be Steve Jobs from Apple. Jobs didn't create the personal computer. He didn't create the mobile phone. He didn't create the MP3 player, but he's considered one of the world's greatest innovators. He took all these different technologies and created something beautiful that made it easy for consumers to use. That's what great innovation is. And that's where China is on business model innovation. Now, technological innovation is what I call stage 3 of the innovation curve. And that's what we're starting to see. We're starting to see it in mobile services. So here's some big numbers for you. Okay, there are about 900 million mobile phone users in China. 70% of them access the internet through a mobile phone. They have a smartphone. In the United States and most other countries, 30–40% of people have a smartphone. In the most developed countries, it's 50%. China leapfrogged over personal computers. So the most innovative technologies today are coming in mobile. And now what does that mean for you? Well, Tencent, WeChat, when I did research for End of Copycat 2 years ago, I went to Indonesia in the beginning of the year. Everybody then was using Facebook. When I went back to Indonesia at the end of 2013, everybody was using WeChat. WeChat had eclipsed Facebook as the most used social media site. So what you're starting to see is that mobile's important, and the best technology is coming out of China because this is where all the consumers are. Now, what does that mean? If you look, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, they're great, but they were made for a PC environment, and they sort of shrunk the services and put it onto a mobile service, and it doesn't work very well. Okay, if you ever use LinkedIn, you have to use a personal computer and the mobile to get all the different services. You can't use just one. Twitter, when I'm in the United States, I can never get a photo to upload onto Twitter. It's a terrible system when it goes to mobile. The Chinese internet players are creating mobile from the very beginning. E-commerce players especially, now over about 50% of e-commerce sales in China are done on the mobile platform. So you all have to be prepared. You have to create the right apps, the right marketing campaigns to reach Chinese and other Asian consumers on a mobile app. Because it's not just China, actually. This is WeChat and what the platform, you can buy stuff on it. Wealth management, you can even give money. And they're really smart, okay? You can have a friend wire you money. But in order to do that, you have to link up your credit card. So aren't you going to wire up your credit card because people are trying to send you money? And then you start going out and buying things on e-commerce. But now I've talked a lot about China today, but this is not just China. M-Pesa is a great example in Africa, okay? They don't have brick and mortar banks in a lot of places in Africa. People have leapfrogged over that, and they're using mobile banking. Mobile is the big thing that's happening not just in China, but also in India, also in South Korea, also in Japan. So wherever you are in Asia, you need to start to create that mobile-first strategy. Well, this guy's snoring over here. I guess I'm boring him. Sorry. I'm hoping it's jet lag and not Shaun, you know? Okay, well, I guess that's a signal for me to wrap it up. But I started off today by telling you I wanted to go over some of the economic shifts that are propelling innovation. It's happening in China today. It's going to happen more and more over the next 3 to 5 years. And importantly for you in the travel industry is you have to embrace and adopt the new forms of mobile service innovation, especially when you're trying to reach the Chinese consumer. Now, when you're trying to reach them, a couple words to remember, okay? Experiences, individuality, and pollution. Those are the 3 points you need to remember. you're going to be able to create loyal customers, but they're going to be very different from the blonde-haired, blue-eyed American one. But they might have more money. As the first speaker said, there's a new billionaire being minted every week in China so far this year. Stocks went up about 5% today. So there might be another 2 or 3 billionaires made. So thank you so much for having me. I hope that you found this session useful. I'm here to answer any questions you might have, but thank you very much.
As Shaun said, he's going to take some questions from you guys. Maybe another word that you remember. I remember black gangbanger. So pollution, right?
So remember the politically incorrect stuff. I'm really sorry.
We're in China. Anybody have a question for Shaun? Mary.
Hello, Shaun.
Hi.
I'm told that it is females who make travel decisions. And actually, sorry, let's start again. Hello, I'm Mary Gostelow. Shaun, I'm told by my many friends in China, who are actually all in the travel industry, that it is females who plan the trips when they're going on family holidays. They plan the destination, they plan everything, and they actually then pay for it because they control the family finances. Now, is that true?
I don't have a bank account. My wife controls everything. It is true, okay? Chinese women, there's a couple key points on this. In travel specifically, Chinese women are the ones making the decisions, okay? They're looking and doing the research, deciding where to go, communicating with friends, and they make the final decision. Even on other ticket items like cars that men usually decide in the Western world, women here have an equal say. And they'll say to their husband, you can choose a Porsche or a Mercedes, but not a BMW. And then the man can decide. At least that's how it works in my house. Okay? Now, and this is really important. When you take a look at the economy, it's slowing down. And we didn't get into it too much. But the most optimistic consumers in the country today are Chinese women. Men are much more depressed, especially men between the ages of 25 and 35. Okay? We interviewed people in Shanghai. 70% of women who are unmarried said that they wouldn't marry a guy unless he had already bought a car and a house. Okay, so there's a lot of pressure for men. Women basically are spending money and they have a lot more disposable income. They're also the great winners of the economic change. When China was manufacturing, a lot of the jobs were based on how strong you were. And so the men got the jobs or in construction. As we move to services, women are the ones that are getting hired more. They're starting to actually out-earn men. There's more women than men in university in China, more women than men getting MBAs. If you go into white-collar Fortune 500 companies, women outnumber men. So they're really the great winners of the economic switch right now. When we talk with HR departments, they say that they prefer women because they're smarter. They're easier to train, and they stay around more. Yeah, you can clap for that woman. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Any other questions for Shaun Rein?
Over there.
Hey, Shaun. My name is Sam.
Hi,
I'm
Sam.
from Seashell Sport. Thank you. And I have a question for you, because your position like a research company. I'm wondering, do you have any data to show when Chinese travelers they go outside to travel for holidays, how do they choose their travel destination?
Yes, I have that data. We can talk later. I can share that with you. Okay. I think keys is they do want those experiences, so they will spend money on that. They also want nice hotels. But again, they might have a nice hotel night one and the end, and in the middle stay at a cheaper one. So when you put together your packages, you might want to think about that. Another example is I interviewed a 33-year-old from Wuhan, a woman. She's a teacher and was making about $600, $700 a month. She and her friends went to the Sands in Macau and stayed in a $1,000 a night suite. What she and her friends did is they spent 4 people in there. They shared the room, okay? And I know all the hotels are like, oh my gosh. 4, 6, sometimes you get like 6 people. My neighbor has like 20 people living in his house. I don't understand it. It's very loud. But what happens is they want to experience that luxury for that 1 or 2 nights. And then the rest of the trip, they stayed in cheap $30 a night hotels. So you want to, they will spend, but not all the time for the whole trip. They also will spend less money on the food, unless it's included in the package from the very beginning, from the priority. Now, from shopping, they're still shopping for luxury items. But instead of shopping 5 days, the whole trip, they'll do shopping in 1 day. So when they go to France, they want to go to Champs-Élysées and Galeries Lafayette in 1 day. Then they want to see the Louvre and they want to go to a vineyard. So the actual sales point is going to be a lot shorter, and it tends to actually be more in the airports. So duty-free is doing really well right now because as they leave, they're buying it and they're going off. Now here's a key thing for you. If you have lobbying power with governments or airlines, one of the reasons, just one of them, but one of the reasons why sales in South Korea are doing so well to duty-free shoppers and not Hong Kong, there's issues, other issues with Hong Kong, but why are people switching to South Korea? It's because China Eastern Airlines allows 1 bag in economy class to Hong Kong, allows 2 bags economy class to South Korea. And this was a new change last year. What that means is all these people who want to go shopping, they just go to South Korea and they load up in that last day on duty-free cosmetics. But we can talk later. Seychelles, I'd be willing to give you some data for a free trip over there.
Okay, we have to stop the questions there.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
Okay.
He spent time in Canada, so he's very apologetic.
But I am American, so I'm also arrogant.
No comment.
He agrees. Well, thank you so much.
Have a drink with Shaun later. Thanks, Shaun.